friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Ellie Lee and this is Ellie Lee Designs. Today I have a special treat for you. I'm going to be working with concrete to make a concrete planter. Now this is the first time that I've made it, so you are going to be going through this with me from start to finish. And I mean, you're going to see everything from the do's and the do nots. So again, that is the do's and do nots. Can't emphasize enough on the do nots, and you'll see why. But we'll go ahead and get started with first going over the materials that you're going to use, and then we'll jump right into the project. Let's get started. So for this project, I used two components to create my concrete planter mold. And that was an old empty protein shake powder container and an Amazon bubble packaging envelope that I had from a prior delivery. In addition, you'll need your scissors, a pair of shears if you have them in case you need to cut through your plastic, your sponges or brushes that you would like to use for painting, your paints. I'm using the Waverly chalk paint in elephant and Nimbus color, as well as the Rust-Oleum metallic spray paint. You'll need a mixing bowl with your little shovel for mixing or a spatula. You'll need your cement or concrete, and you'll need some water to mix your cement in. And then lastly, you'll also need a sanding block or sanding sheet. I use my sander, electric sander. It's not required, but I just find it to be a lot of fun to use. So anytime I can break it out, I'll use that. But you're perfectly fine with a sanding sponge or even the sheets that you can buy at the store. So the first thing I did is cut open the top of my protein shake container. And after doing that, I grabbed the Amazon package and I began to cut around that. And really the main reasons that I chose them is because I had both of them. I liked that bubble texture that I felt I could use to create some design on the outside of the planter. And I really liked the size of the shake mix container. I felt that would make a decent sized planter. Now the next step is where I thought I was a total genius and I was going to nail the concept I was trying to achieve. And that was basically creating the texture inside of the container, because when you pour the concrete, that's going to become the exterior of your planter. So I thought I would find the perfect measurement to make sure it was completely wrapped in the inside, and I was going to hold it down in place and everything was going to be great. This probably would have worked had I considered what areas I was securing, but you'll see that a little bit later into the project. Okay, so in this next section, I started to mix the concrete, but important fact number one, you should always read the directions for the things that you're using. And the first mistake I made here was I put the concrete into the mixing bowl before the water, and the directions clearly stated that I need to add water before the concrete. And what that essentially did was it created a clumpy mass at the bottom because the water trapped the powder in a bubble, I guess, and it just was not mixing well. So the spatula eventually turned out to be useless, and I had to start to use this little shovel, if you will, that I purchased at Home Depot to get the bottom scraped off, or the cement scraped off from the bottom, and be able to mix it evenly. Now that the cement was mixed, I was ready and so gung-ho to start pouring into my mold. I was excited, and I knew that in a short while, this was going to be my beautiful masterpiece. But remember at the very beginning when I mentioned about the bubble wrap and the importance of securing the bubble wrap inside. If you look closely, you're going to start to see that the bubble wrap that's inside of the plastic container was slowly starting to raise just a little bit as I was pouring the cement into the mold. However, ladies and gentlemen, that was not the end of it. when I began to put in the piece that I was using for the inside of the mold, which was going to create the hole for our planter, I put in the piece, and as I was pushing it down, sure enough, the bubble wrap started to come up. And the first time I saw it, I just didn't even know what I was going to do at that point. So I was really bummed about it. I almost considered starting again, but I said, just roll with it and see what happens, right? Part of this whole DIY process is you learn as you go, and you also see what you can create, and sometimes there are really cool things that come out of it. And I do think in the end, you will see, I think it turned out pretty cool. And now the last thing that I needed to do before I let it sit to dry was just place something heavy inside of the middle container just to keep it down and keep it from floating up like the rest of it did. And what I did is use a little bit of tape just to keep it from going to the side, because I wanted the center hole to be as even as possible. Once that was all set and finished, I put it to the side to let it dry. The instructions, if I'm not mistaken, actually called for 15-minute dry time, but I honestly stepped away from it for a couple hours and just let it dry. So now in this section, I'm taking off the tape, and I'm thinking this is gonna be a pretty smooth, unveiling or breakdown, if you will. And as I'm pulling at the Amazon package, I'm realizing this isn't going to come out as easily as I thought, and I still don't know what I may have done wrong here. So if any of you know and have any suggestions, I am open to receiving them, because I do want to make these again, and I would like to make it a little bit simpler. But I definitely had a really difficult time. I had to break out the heavy cutting artillery, if you will, and really break down this plastic container. I literally had to bang this thing so many times onto my work table just to try to loosen this up. And another thing that I noticed is my container was hot. I let it sit, sit long enough to set, but the cement got really hot. And that was another thing that, after reading the directions, which you should always do first, and actually I read them before, but I thought I remembered everything I needed to do, and I didn't. So I needed to have kept it moist throughout the process just a little bit, and I didn't. I let it sit. I started doing some, things around the house, and I never bothered to wet it again. So I think that's what might have caused it to get hot, but it was really hot. Like, you could probably use it like a little heating pad if it was soft enough. So definitely make sure that you're following the directions. I'm not sure if using plastic was also a contributor to that, or even the Amazon packaging that I was using. That's possible, but it really didn't talk much about any type of material that you couldn't use to set things with. So I can't say for sure if that was it. I do think it's just the fact that I didn't use any water in the process except for what I used to mix it. And after much patience and determination, the middle container finally released from the concrete. Now I was ready to clean it up and remove any of the little leftover pieces, like the plastic pieces of the Amazon packaging that got stuck in the concrete when it was drying. This happened when the concrete overflowed at the very beginning, where I had the bubble wrapping slide up and down, and so some of the concrete got in between the plastic container and the packaging. But in the end, it actually resulted in a really cool design that I just kind of started to accentuate as the project continued on. So this was kind of more difficult than I expected it to be. Definitely didn't come out the way I expected it to be or the way I expected it to, because I did not anticipate having this on the bottom. That's because this packaging material slid up and the concrete filled in the bottom portion. So, but you know, I don't hate it. There's just something about it that I guess makes it more rustic and funky. I don't know, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm not crazy about the plastic that stayed in there, but since I'm considering painting anyway, I guess this just kind of made the decision for me. I can try to get the little bit off of there that's left and just paint right over, and no one will know the wiser, except for you guys who are watching. And then here, this is where I had taped the inside of the packaging, and it left that crease, which I have to say, I expected that to happen. I knew that it would happen, so I don't know why I even did that, but again, I'm not worried about it. I've just made it for myself to see how it turned out. And this could be the back of it anyway, where no one really see. I do have some air bubbles in different places. One of the things that I probably should have done is vibrated the mold when the concrete was in there to get rid of the air bubbles, but that's more if you're going for like a really smooth finish look. This obviously is not a very smooth look, but I don't mind. I don't mind the air bubbles. I've got some in here too. I just think it makes it a little bit more just rustic and just different. It's not so perfect. Same with these little edges here. I will likely keep them, but I'm just gonna smooth them out just a little bit so that they're not so sharp to the touch. But I do like that it's kind of got this funky little you know, edge to it. I think it makes it different, it makes it fun. So I will be leaving that. Next, we go to the sanding. Now, was it absolutely necessary to use a power tool? No, but who doesn't love using a power tool? So I did break out my electric sander and sanded off the sharp edges that I talked about before, but you can use a sanding sheet, or one of those little sanding sponges. All of that would work perfectly fine. After sanding, the final step is the painting, and I started off with the Waverly chalk paint elephant color, and I also had the Nimbus. Those were going to be my two primary colors. The elephant was going to be on the body, and the Nimbus was going to be part of the trim. But for the purposes of the tutorial, I'm going to speed through it so that you will be able to see the project through the end without actually sitting through the whole process in real time. I did start to realize towards the end though, once I had the two contrasting colors, that there could still be something. It's not that it looked bad the way it was, I just felt like there could be more. So I wanted that texture to really pop. There was a metallic silver spray paint that I had gotten, and I had also not been able to use yet. So I thought, I'm gonna go ahead and experiment a little further. So I did. I grabbed my metallic silver spray paint, and I decided to go ahead and sponge around the textured area to really make that area pop. Now, I was using this styrofoam cup, which I thought was a brilliant idea, right? You know, you get these when you go out, and sometimes they'll bring them to you or with your order, and they're gonna go into the garbage. So I oftentimes will just save them and reuse them for something else. But I did not realize that the spray paint was going to eat the styrofoam. And it did. It literally, before my eyes, just started to eat at the styrofoam, which was kind of scary. I had to think in the moment, you know, is this causing an even greater chain reaction of invisible gases that I am not even realizing and inhaling? So thankfully I had the window open, which was good, but yeah, it ate right through my styrofoam. Another don't if you're going to repeat this project. Just make sure you have something better than I did. I was not prepared. It's all about being prepared. I did like, however, the way it came out. I really think that it almost gave it like a honeycomb look on the outside of the planter. And that's what I wanted. I really wanted it to look just really cool, like rustic and just pop, that texture just pop. So I was happy to, one, have been able to use my metallic paint, and two, to really be able to showcase the texture on the planter that I really wanted to do to begin with. And the last thing I decided I wanted to do was to the actual outline, or not the outline, but the edges on the top of the planter. They were just there, and like it was bothering me, not bothering me, but it was just kind of like, what can I do to just show you off a little more? Because the edges is almost like cliff-like. I love the fact that it wasn't just the smooth edge. So I decided to take the spray paint, the metallic spray paint, and just outline those edges just so that they themselves were also kind of a part of this showcase and were there. And I think that it ended up really well. It actually elevated the look of this piece. It really made it look like something that I would buy at the store. I mean, I looked at it and I was pretty impressed with myself. So that was a DIY yay moment, a DIY kind of thing, because I didn't expect it to look as great as it did, and it really elevated the look of it. It made it look more luxurious, just so much nicer. So I was really glad that I made that decision to add that just a little bit of metallic paint on the edges of the planter as well. So that was it, guys. That was the concrete planter project that I had planned for today. I really hope that you like it, and please, give it a thumbs up if you do like it. Leave me a comment below if you want to see more like this. If you have any feedback, please, anything that you can tell me, if you've done this before and you have some feedback that I can learn from, because there were, like I said, a couple of things that I definitely would have done differently, and I'm hoping that I can find just a little bit of an easier way to remove my molds. I'm thinking of actually creating my own molds out of silicone so that I can reuse them, because I would love to be able to make these to sell them or to give them as gifts. I think they're very beautiful gifts. So a mold would be a lot easier to use, but please comment below with your experience, or if you want to see something like this or something different. I'd love to hear your feedback. And don't forget to check out the description box below for all of the items that were used in today's tutorial. And please hit the subscribe button and hit the little notification to make sure that you get notified of every one of my videos. I post every week, and I look forward to seeing you there. So thank you again for your support, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.